Hi guys, today's topic of discussion is cardiac cycle. Now, what is cardiac cycle? It is basically the sequence of events that occurs during one heartbeat. And there are a total of three stages, which are diastole, atrial systole, and ventricle systole. But before going into the discussion of all of these three stages, let us first discuss that what is the structure of heart and how the blood flows to the heart. So let's see. There are four chambers of the heart, two atria and two ventricles. When we talk about the blood vessels of the heart, there are four major blood vessels that are aorta, vena cava, that includes superior vena cava and inferior vena cava. Then there is pulmonary artery and pulmonary vein. There is a misconception that arteries always carry oxygenated blood. In case of the pulmonary artery, it carries the deoxygenated blood from the heart towards the lungs, where we pick up the oxygen, and the oxygenated blood is carried via the pulmonary vein back into the heart. So, this is how these four major blood vessels play their role in the blood flow. Now, let us see how the blood flows via the heart. The deoxygenated blood comes into the right atrium, from where it passes through the AV valve into the right ventricle, and from there it moves via the semilunar valve into the pulmonary artery, which carries it toward the lungs, and from lungs oxygenated blood is carried via the pulmonary vein into the left atrium, and from left atrium into the left ventricle, and then passing from the semilunar valve it moves into the aorta, and the oxygenated blood is then pumped throughout the body. So this is how the blood flows through the heart. So now comes the stages of the cardiac cycle. As we've discussed before, there are three stages: diastole, atrial systole, and ventricle systole. The first thing, the pronunciation of these three words. Diastole. It's not diastole. That is a wrong pronunciation. Most of us pronounce it wrong. Therefore, it is diastole and systole because it is originated from Greek language. That is why their pronunciation is like that. Okay? So one by one, we are going to discuss all of these three stages in detail. So let's see. The first stage of the cardiac cycle is cardiac diastole. The word diastole comes from the Greek language that means dilation or to expand. During this stage, all chambers of the heart are relaxed. The atria is going to get filled with the blood via the superior vena cava and pulmonary vein respectively. And this will increase the pressure on the atria, thus opening the AV valve and pushing the blood into the ventricle. Then comes the next stage, that is the atrial systole. The word systole comes from the Greek language that means to contract. During this stage, both the atria that are under the pressure will contract, causing the opening of the AV valve and the release of the blood via the atria into the respective ventricles. There will be a slight increase in the pressure of the ventricles, and it causes the closing of the AV valves, so there is no backflow of the blood. Then this brings us to the last stage, that is known as ventricular systole. During this stage, these pressurized ventricles are gonna contract from the apex, that is the tip. Because of the contraction, they will push the blood via the opened semilunar valve into the respective arteries, that is from right ventricle into the pulmonary artery and from left ventricle into the aorta. During this whole stage, both the AV valves are closed, so there is no backflow of the blood. This completes the whole cardiac cycle. And when we listen with the help of a stethoscope, there is a sound that is produced, which is the lub sound and dub sound, lub dub sound, right? How is it produced? The lub sound is produced because of the closing of the tricuspid and bicuspid valve, whereas the dub sound is produced because of the closing of the semilunar valve after the ventricular systole. Because of these closing of valves, the lub dub sound are produced. Let us summarize the whole cycle. The first stage is cardiac diastole, during which the atria are going to get filled with the blood via the superior vena cava and pulmonary vein. This increases the pressure on the atria, thus opening the AV valve and pushing the blood into the ventricles. The second stage is atrial systole, during which both the atria are going to contract, opening the AV valve and pushing the blood into the ventricle, thus increasing the pressure of the ventricle and closing the AV valve so there is no backflow of the blood. The last stage is ventricular systole, during which both the ventricles are going to contract, thus opening the semilunar valve and pushing the blood into the pulmonary artery and aorta and thus leaving the heart. You need to remember, during this stage, the pressure is increased in the ventricle as compared to the atria. So the AV valve are going to remain closed, so there is no backflow of the blood. This whole cycle consists of about one systole and one diastole, and it lasts for about 0.8 seconds. And when we calculate the total heart contraction in one's life, it is about 2.5 billion times. So this is the complete cardiac cycle. So that was all about the stages of the cardiac cycle. I will be back with the second part of this video. If you like it, do subscribe and share. Till next time, stay safe. Bye guys.